Okay, so I figure like if we can talk through the concepts together and all like give examples and understand it together, it will make better sense to us. Oops. Should I start a slideshow? Okay. You guys see it?
Yep.
Cute. Okay, this is so fun. Okay, so concepts and principles. This is off of the 5th task list, like the letters and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. It's all the same stuff.
Oh, I guess I should have asked, are y'all studying for the 4th or for the 5th?
A bunch of them are for the 4th, but I've just
Okay.
been going based off the 5th task list because I'm most likely going to take it December or January.
Okay.
So I'm just studying that one, but we've come to find some differences, but for the most part, it's very similar. All right, so B1.
That's good to know.
B1, define and provide examples of behavior, response, and response class. So behavior is anything observable and measurable, what living organisms do, including what and how they communicate. So like walking, sitting, talking. And then a response is something directly measurable. So you scratch an itch, or a child claps their hands after the teacher says clap hands. That's an example of a response. And then response class. Does somebody want to explain response class?
It's just that set of responses, which response is one of the behaviors, like multiple responses. So they all have, they're going to have different topography, but they might serve the same function.
Yes, exactly. So I always think like they have the same end consequence. So like the kid can have a tantrum, he can ask nicely, or he can scream to get certain item, but regardless, mom's gonna give it to him. So that's like a response class because it ends in the same consequence. Like you said, they serve the same function. So examples can be asking nicely or stealing, might both be ways to gain access to an item. So they would be members of the same response class. Examples, yelling, crying, or throwing for access to a preferred toy. Okay, so that one's pretty easy. And then the next one is B2. Do you guys see when I move the Zoom people around? Okay, sorry, it's because it gets in the way, so I like move it around. Define and provide examples of stimulus and stimulus class. Stimulus involves a change in energy, which has an effect on one or more of the senses in a living creature. Examples can be sound, sight, touch, smell, and taste. And then we go into stimulus class, which is a group of stimuli that share wait, oh my gosh, I can't say that word. Commonality in one or more of the physical dimensions. So physical, temporal, or functional. Examples of stimulus class can be like a breed of dogs, loud sounds, soft things, all the same stimulus class. Can you guys give an example of a stimulus class? Like a real life example?
So like an example I can think of is fruits.
Foods.
Like you have apple, you have banana, you have orange, but they're still under fruit, even though their shapes and everything looks different.
Yeah, and you can also say like maybe brands of cars. They're all cars, right? But they're just all different kinds of cars.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I figured that this one we could talk about it like a little bit more in depth, since a lot of people really confuse them, and I really struggle. Like even when I'm training the RBTs, I have a really hard time explaining this, the difference between respondent conditioning and operant conditioning. Emery.
So, okay, now I think respondent conditioning are conditions that you are built with, that is within you.
Yes, like more.
While operant conditions are those ones that you learn.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if someone is driving on a street and the person has an accident, now anytime the person is driving past that street, the person has an heartbeat, like the heartbeat start racing. That's a respondent conditioning, because heartbeat is not something the person learned.
Oh, yeah. It's like innately within you.
Exactly.
Yes.
But maybe the person is driving and the person saw the red light and hits a brake. That is an operant conditioning, because the person learned maybe from the consequence. Maybe the person has run past the light and got a ticket. So now the person, anytime the person sees a red light, he stops. That behavior is an operant conditioning, because he learned it from a previous consequence of what had happened. That's the way I see it.
Yes, that's a good one. Another one that gave me like a light bulb moment was so like when you see a bright light, it shines in your face and you like twitch your eyes because you don't want to see the light. That was an example of responding. Your body just reacted to that light and did that, right? And then the other one, operant conditioning, is what we use. So based off of manipulating the consequence or manipulating the environment using positive or negative reinforcement.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the natural stimulus and unconditioned stimulus.
Okay.
So the way I understand natural stimulus is it's something that has not been, that doesn't have an effect on the environment at a particular, like for instance, let's use the Pavlov's dog as an example. If you ring the bell without pairing it with an unconditioned stimulus, the bell will not have effect on the dog. So unconditioned stimulus is something that is within you, something you produce within you, while natural stimulus is an external factor. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So let's look at the dog, for instance. The bell is a natural stimulus because it doesn't have any effect on the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the salivation is unconditioned stimulus because the dog didn't learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So as the nurse brings in the meat and rings the bell before they give the dog the meat powder, they're trying to pair the bell to the meat.
Yes.
So after a while, when you keep, after a while, the dog hears the bell and starts salivating. So that is pairing the natural stimulus with an unconditioned stimulus. That's pairing the bell, that's the sound from the bell to the meat powder. That is the way I think. Anybody can add anything that you're welcome to add.
Yes, and that's also the ones that are elicited. So that's a big thing, to link respondent conditioning to elicited behaviors.
Okay,
Those are the ones that are elicited versus the operant ones. Those have to be evoked or emitted. And then another thing to remember, respondent behaviors, they are responding to an antecedent. So something that happened before, that's what they're responding to, versus the operant behaviors. They are behaviors that operate according to the consequence.
okay.
And then what you were talking about, always think about the behaviors with the US and the UR, they're being paired. And then for the other one, for operant, it's the SRS or ABC. So stimulus, response, and then the consequence, right? And then the respondent is due to phylogenetic history, where operant conditioning is due to ontogenic history.
So phylogenic is what you're born with, while ontogenic is something that you learn in your environment from previous consequences.
Yep. So the example they provide here for respondent behaviors is going to be, like I said, closing your eyes when you're presented with a bright light, versus the operant behavior is going to be avoiding public speaking because you had a previous bad experience with public speaking. So now your anxiety with public speaking. Okay, and then so for operant, it's the one that's following the 3-term contingency, whereas respondent is the unconditioned stimulus and all of those terms. Okay, the next one that I have is operant. So operant conditioning, the type of learning in which the future probability of behaviors are determined by consequence, like we said. So using positive reinforcement during DTT, or giving out traffic tickets to decrease speeding, or changes in social media behavior because somebody liked something or whatever. Those are examples that I found. Okay, so that was all. I just wanted to go over that B1 and B2, and then we can go on to questions if you want to relate them to that, or just go off whatever questions we want.
Okay.
Let me stop share.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me bring up this question and see if they're gonna be interested in reviewing this question. So let me share the questions and see. Trying to see if I can pull it up.
Does anybody else want to add anything on how to remember the differences between respondent and operant behaviors?
The main thing is respondent is elicit and operant is emit or evokes. It
Yeah.
has a history of the consequence. So always look for that.
She's breaking up.
Those are your keywords in your question, enforcement prior. It's
So I have these questions. Uh-oh. Am I sharing the right page?
A Word document?
Yeah. Can you see this?
Yes.
The online review question 1 to 251.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want us to go over this, or you want us to go over the BDS module?
We can go over those.
Oh,
I like those because they only give 4 options, where the BDS is like giving us all these options.
Okay. So at the end of the whole thing, they have compiled answers and explanations.
Okay, so do you want to go over, like, go through it one by one, or do like 5 at a time?
Yeah, we could do like, okay, maybe I should just print out the answers.
So that you can know going, so we could keep going, no?
Yeah, instead of like answering then going to look for.
Yeah, or do like pull it up on your phone.
Okay, so let's get started. Dash is the relationship between an antecedent, a response, and a consequence. That is some change in the consequence alter some extent of the response class. Relationship, sorry. Dash is the relationship between an antecedent, because I knew that
A response and a consequence. Isn't that what we just talked about, the ABC? So isn't it operant conditioning?
Yep.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
An incredible fear of snakes that result from a being bitten by a snake as a youngster is an example of
Operant.
being like a fear. It's an incredible fear of a snake.
Fear. Oh. That one was internal, so it's respondent.
Respondent. Yeah.
Exactly.
Is it though? Because aren't you,
Yeah.
you were bitten, so that was learned.
Yeah, you were bitten, but the question is
Fear of the
an
snakes.
incredible
The fear.
fear.
So is it saying that every time now you see snakes, you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
anxious, you start sweating, you back away? Because I feel like fear is
Well,
a
but
bit
for this
mentalistic,
question,
but-
it's only talking about that one moment. That fear, it was the result.
Mm-hmm.
So that fear was reflex.
Yeah. Okay, well, they would have got me there because I was thinking like her with learned history.
Yeah, I think most of these questions, according to the people that have taken the exams, they are straightforward questions, but you have to know what they're asking.
Yeah, you have to be very careful with the way you read it.
Exactly.
So that one is respondent.
It's respondent.
Right.
Yeah.
So which is an example of a reinforcing effect? The use of PRN medication that increase self-injury, reinforcing effect. Providing snacks for being in seat that decreases seat behavior. Changing this setting agreement of the class due to more students. Ensuring the child had breakfast that morning.
Would it be A, because that's the only case where behavior is increasing?
Yeah.
That's what I think to A.
Yeah.
Because only increasing thing that's all. So let's see. A is correct.
All right. This is making me sweat, you guys.
So the process of dash is when a stimulus is withheld, which results in a temporary increase in responding and an eventual reduction in response rates.
Extinction.
So when you,
I want to say extinction, but if it was
Yeah.
extinction, it wouldn't be a stimulus. It would be that a consequence is being withheld, or like a previous reinforcer is being withheld.
But
Isn't
isn't
that-
a reinforcer a stimulus?
Oh, it could be.
It could be, but like I feel like this is a bit broad because like extinction specifically, you're withholding something that
Reinforcement.
was reinforcing.
Yeah.
So if that's what they're getting at, if by stimulus they mean like the reinforcer or the consequence, then I would think it's extinction.
What would the other response be?
Reinforcement. Or
So
no?
if you say reinforcement, if you are withholding, you are not reinforcing.
Oh, when it's
Yeah, I agree
held.
that it's extinction.
Oh, yeah,
because-
yeah.
If you are withholding, you
Yeah.
are not reinforcing. So it's C, extinction.
Okay.
A stimulus that follows a behavior in time is a
Consequence.
consequence. That's true. I mean, C. The extent to which a behavior changes as a result of the presentation and removal of an antecedent stimulus established through operant conditioning is presentation, that is adding and removing.
Reinforcement.
No, it says the presentation and removal of an antecedent stimulus.
Oh. But contingency.
I was thinking contingency as well. Only because if it was reinforcement, it would say that there is an increase in behavior, but it's not saying that.
Now
No.
let's look at the
Saying something is
let's
presented.
look at the
or removed.
questions.
Yeah, look at it, because it's more of a stimulus control.
Yeah, that's what I was
That
thinking.
the extent to which a behavior changes. That means you being able to control changing. If you add it, the behavior changes. If you take it away, the behavior changes. So that's stimulus control. Being able to turn on and turn off that behavior.
Yeah.
So then what would be the difference of contingency? Because isn't having a contingency, that behavior is contingent on a certain behavior, or that stimulus, that behavior is contingent on a stimulus.
Come again?
So what would be the difference of contingency versus stimulus control?
No, what I know, with stimulus control, you are able to you're able to determine. You've done an FA, you've done an FDA, and you have determined what is controlling that behavior. What you can use to turn it on and turn it off.
I think with contingency, it would have to be the 3 parts: antecedent, behavior, and consequence. But in this question, it's just talking about the antecedent. So it's not a contingency unless it has all 3.
That's a good point.
So stimuli presented or withdrawn that decreases the future probability of a behavior are punishers. Or withdrawn that decreases. They are punishers.
Mm-hmm. Is it B?
Yeah, it would be
I
punishers.
don't want to look at the answer until we're done, then I'll check if we're right or wrong. So, do we go with B?
Yeah, B.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it says decrease.
Yeah. So certain stimuli increases the future probability of a response when they are terminated following that response. The process is
Negative reinforcement.
so it says future probability of a response. So if the stimuli increases in the future, that's
Reinforcement.
reinforcement.
And
So the question is it positive or negative reinforcement?
terminated.
So something is being terminated,
Negative.
so removed, so negative, yeah.
Yeah.
Terminated following the response.
Is it? Is it right?
Let me see number 8.
Negative reinforcement.
Negative reinforcement.
So the quarterback from a high school football team tries out for the baseball team with no prior experience. He becomes a very competent pitcher. His pitching motion is an example of generalized.
Right, you know it's generalization.
Yeah.
So you have to decide between the response or stimulus.
Yeah.
And it kind of tricks you, because when I was reading this, it's actually the response that's changing.
So it's pitching motion is an example of.
Response.
Yeah, it's response. I'm thinking it's response because,
Generalization.
yeah.
Oh, because he went from football to baseball.
Number 9.
Yeah, so it's a different topography. The way you, as a quarterback, the way you throw the ball as a football quarterback versus the pitching of baseball. I know at first I looked at that stimulus, I go, nope, wait, let me look at this.
Response generalization, A. Allowing Jefferson to eat gummy worms throughout the class may make any food item ineffective as reinforcer. What has occurred?
Satiation.
Satiation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reinforcers establish dash and maintain behaviors.
Increase.
Mhm.
Increase. Yep. You are in a car crash, you hit the windshield with your head, resulting in a nasty cut and severe bruising. While exiting the car, you see the crushed red metal of your car and smell burning oil. Hitting your head on the windshield is an
This doesn't make sense to me. Hitting your head is a behavior.
hitting your head is
How would it be a stimulus?
Unconditioned.
number 12.
Hitting
Let me see.
on your windshield is a.
Is it saying like hitting your head was like the reflex, the unconditioned
Yes.
response?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like you didn't have control of that. You just did it in the response of hitting your head on the windshield.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right. It says explanation. Hitting blunt force trauma will result in injury and reflexive behavior that requires no prior learning. So that would be a B.
I have a question. Am I thinking of this wrong? Like, is stimulus synonymous with response? Because when I see stimulus, I think of like environmental stimuli.
It doesn't have to. It can be like an SD. That can
But
be
can
a
it
stimulus.
be, can it be behavior, like responses?
Yeah, it can be a response or it can be an antecedent. Like it's like either stimulus, whatever it is that elicits the response.
Okay, I guess that's just what was confusing me.
If the smell of the burning oil after a car crash results in anxiety, it is a dash stimulus.
Condition.
Anxiety.
Smell of burning oil. Anxiety. Unconditioned.
Condition. So that's what I'm thinking.
It's like within you. Ooh, like you couldn't control it.
Wait, if the smell of burning oil results in anxiety. Is it asking about the smell of the burning oil or
If
the
smell of the
anxiety?
burning oil after a car crash results in anxiety. So it's pairing the smell.
So what happens, so in other words, because you've had a history of that, now when you
I think it'd
smell
be-
that burning oil,
Yeah,
it's bringing out your anxiety.
so conditioned, right?
Yeah, it's conditioned because I think it's pairing this with this. So it should be conditioned.
I think it's
Yeah, always have to like reword the wording.
I think it would have to be conditioned, Selena, because this is like after the car crash happened. And so now you smell burning oil and now it's like
getting.
after and now you
Oh,
get.
okay.
Yeah, so you paired it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's conditioned.
Yeah, now he has anxiety. Okay.
Uh-oh. Okay, so you and your friends discuss stealing cigarettes. You watch your friend Tommy get spanked by his mom, I guess, for stealing a cigarette. When you go home, you do not steal cigarette. The change in your behavior is
Rule governed.
operant behavior because you learn from the
It's a
spanking.
rule governed.
I think it's rule governed because
governed,
his
okay.
friend
Yeah.
Tommy came in contact with a contingency, but he
Because for
didn't.
it to be operant, he had to come in contact with reinforcement. That didn't, there
Himself.
was no consequence, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's just a rule. He saw that. It was rule governed because he saw someone else go through that.
Yeah, number 14 is rule governed. Woohoo. Establishing operant change the dash of a reinforcer.
Value.
Also, number 15. Value, yep. Dash conditioning always deal with consequences.
Operant.
Consequences, that would be operant
Operant.
conditioning, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Operant conditioning 16. Yep, operant conditioning. An example of operant condition, an example of operantly conditioned behavior is a person who is afraid of snakes due to a previous snake bite. A woman who is afraid of fire due to being born in a house fire. A person who has never baked, read the direction of the box and baked a cake, getting heat on. They all sound the same to me.
Yeah, the first two are very
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, and to me, those are both reflex, so that's respondent. And the same thing with D. So really, not that it's a very good answer, but C would be the only option. Because
Yeah.
getting hit on the knee, that's reflexive. So that's respondent.
Let's check it out, number 17. C,
I guess
right.
Yeah, if they followed the directions and they successfully made a cake, then that's learned behavior. So then now next time
Yeah,
they
they're
going to read the instructions and be reinforced again.
And I was thrown off by that question.
Mhm.
Which is an example of rule-governed behavior.
The whole time I thought that's the one we were doing.
What?
So what do you thought was wrong?
A
B.
child who is spanked for speaking quite spirit, a child who is told not to lie and tell the truth. A child who is praised for ignoring, a child who is given a cookie while making the system.
I think
So
B, because that's the only one that didn't have a direct consequence involved.
Yeah, they're like,
He was just told a rule to not lie,
and then he just did it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with B.
B, final answer. Let's see. Number 18. B. Yep, that's right. Reinforcers and punishers are alike in that
Consequence.
there are consequences. Yeah, there are consequences. 19. C, there are consequences. Yep. Your goal is to increase signing for toy or playing. Which person is likely to gain stimulus control over signing, toy, or play?
I want to say B.
Yeah, I was gonna say B too because she reinforced the signing
Immediate.
immediately. So the tendency of the signing happening in the future is high. But again, the first one said the parents who holds up the preferred toy.
But in the first one, they're just having the child point to the toy where like the question is asking about them signing toy.
Yeah, he's reinforced immediately, so that one's gonna increase
Oh,
it.
yeah. The question was your goal is to increase signing. Okay. So let's take a look at it. B. Number 20. B. Yep. We're right. You are a consultant with a large machine plant. They ask you to help with workers' compensations claim that are costing the company a great deal of money. You began the assessment process by defining safe lifting, unsafe lifting, and measuring the ratio of safe lifting to unsafe lifting, which is, what's the question? What's the question?
Conceptually systematic.
Technological?
I think it's empirical.
Oh my
Stating the
God.
facts.
We
Yeah,
all
What's
have
the
a,
answer?
we all have a different.
What's the right
Well,
one?
conceptual just means getting back to the principles. What they're actually doing here is stating the facts. He's defining what safe and unsafe lifting looks like. He's telling you the exact measurement of the ratio. He's giving you the facts.
Oh yeah, empirical.
Yeah, technological, that's your behavior plan. So if he was defining something, that would be more technological. And then generality is where it is the overuse across settings.
So what's our final answer?
B.
Yeah, I guess B makes sense.
Try it.
So B, final answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, 21 is B. Wow, that was a good breakdown though.
She thought deep into that one.
Yeah, that was a really good breakdown.
I tell you, I'm so sick of studying this stuff.
That was a really good breakdown.
Testing again here soon.
You already saw it one time, so you're the best one to help us with this.
So after
So none of
15
y'all
years,
have
huh?
None of y'all have taken it?
No, I'm not like, no.
Okay.
So you are the more experienced in the room. Or you are the most experienced in the room.
Yeah, and these groups help me just to keep that fluency going because I'm so tired. It's hard to stay motivated. So this helps just going over it and going over it, you know.
Yeah.
I know.
So after 15 years in the field, you continue to rely on data from 15 years ago. You are being a naughty behavior analyst and violate what underlying assumption of behavior analysis? Philosophical doubt.
Being naughty and you violate the assumptions.
Did you say C, philosophical doubt? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, because he's not questioning.
Right. He's stagnant.
He's not questioning.
Philosophical means you're going to continue to explore it, continue to research it. You're always skeptical. You're always doubting it.
Yeah.
So if he's using the same thing from 15 years ago, then he's not current.
Yep. So let's see, 22 is C. Awesome. Let's see. You have worked with several children with self-injurious behavior and find a combination reinforcement and punishment procedure that works well with all the children on your caseload. Sharing your procedure and data that would be technological, right? Because you should be able to, that means sharing.
Yeah, the technological has to do with replication, right? So like,
yeah, so if
you're sharing it, you're hoping that someone would replicate it the same way that you did it.
Right. Yes, I agree.
okay, let's see, number 23. Technological, yeah. I'm just getting myself used. I mean, I'm just getting to know all these concepts. Like, I never knew about those before. The findings of your behavioral research are scrutinized by the editor of several prestigious journals. One writes you back and says the functional assessment, operational definition, baseline measure, intervention, and data displays follow good behavioral practice. In essence, he's saying your work is
Conceptually systematic.
Yes, that one's better.
conceptually systematic.
Yeah.
What is conceptually systematic? The definition.
Following the procedure. That you go back to the
And
basics and
behavior
you follow all the ABA principles.
Okay, let's see, 24.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, awesome. A colleague asks you to review a new journal article that focuses on improving the abilities of adults in a day program to ride the bus. Select the match clothes and increase work output. The research in the article is
applied.
we don't have selective, so that's out. It's not parsimonious. The simplest explanation. It's not experimental, so it's applied.
Applied.
25B, right, applied. There are currently presentations at the FABA conference on the rate of pen tapping during 1 hour time interval. This study can only be constructed as on the rate of pen tapping during 1 hour time interval. This study can only be construed as
Experimental, because
Applied. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
applied or experimental.
Experimental. Applied just means it's socially significant to the individual, like they're able
Yeah,
to
sorry, I'm just
go
asking
out
because
into the
you
world.
said applied.
Yeah.
experimental, 26. 26B, experimental. In the dash analysis of behavior, a child learns replacement behavior for his explosive behavior at home and in the classroom. Applied
Is that one applied?
at home, and I think it's
Yes.
Because it's socially significant.
behavior. Yeah, replacement behavior for his explosive behavior at home. And so I think it's applied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, number 27, applied. Dash constitutes the theories and supposition that guides scientific inquiry about behavior of organisms.
That's behaviorism, I think.
The experiments analysis, experiment, the EAB.
EAB.
It's part of the 4 branches of behavior, ABA. So B is the experimental analysis of behavior, which is the EAB.
That's
I
right.
thought behaviorism had to do with theories.
It doesn't, it's just thrown in there. It's, the answer is B.
Yes, the answer is B, 28.
Research which focuses on the basic process of principles of behavior analysis. Is that
Yeah,
what you-
behaviorism is AKA for conceptual concept. So if you look up the 4 branches of behavior, you'll see. And behaviorism, that's an AKA.
Number 29. Events that are thought to affect the phenomenon of interest are carefully manipulated to elucidate their effects on the concept of thoughts to affect the behavior of interest are carefully manipulated to elucidate their effects on the concept of scientific manipulation, but that is not part
Yep.
of the.
Yeah, that's what you mean by the phenomenon of interest. It's the scientific. And they kind of use the key word carefully manipulated.
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. If they had experimentation, I would have gone with experimentation, but I don't know.
29 is scientific manipulation. Behavior analysts attempt to use the efficient procedure that are significant to the participants involved, promotes generalization and maintains of behavior change. This is the dash dimension of ABA. Efficient procedure that are significant to the participants involved.
effective?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Get a cab.
Effective, let's see, 30. D, effective, yes. Go, Selena.
Woo, woo.
Behavior analysts would never say the behavior happens for no reason. Since behavior analysts are
Determinism.
Yeah, determinants.
number 31.
But yeah, it's like the first one we learned.
Huh?
I said that's like one of the first things we learn.
Yeah,
Determinist.
that's our motto.
No, that is the philosophy that guides behavior analysts.
Behaviorism. All those other words are crazy.
Yeah.
Inner
I know, right?
Number 32, behaviorism. Number 33, Dash provides theoretical underpinning for studying environment and behavior interactions. Dash provides theoretical environment and behavior interaction. A and B, A, no B.
Is it
Oh.
A and B?
So I'm thinking A.
The experimental analysis of behavior.
Uh-huh.
Because
Because the experiments is what deals with the environment and the interactions.
yeah, I don't have an idea, so I'm not even going to say anything. I don't have an idea.
Theoretical underpinnings, conceptual analysis of behavior. I don't know. I don't know that one either.
You don't? Okay, let's see what number
Underpinning.
33. Number 33 is D.
Experience.
Neither?
Neither A nor B.
Yeah, that's why I said conceptual analysis of behavior. I was like, it's not there.
I don't have an idea at all.
It says neither.
Yeah, it's D.
Yeah, because that answer is conceptual analysis of behavior.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good.
That one will make you sweat.
Like I didn't have it. Like I didn't have an idea. So, and I still don't even have an idea.
You gotta go look at the 4 branches.
Oh, okay. If procedures are effectively applied to various people and setting, they are
Generality.
generally, yeah. Mhm. A 34. Let's see. Yep, 34 is A.
I don't see
Where's
anything.
the graph? What happened to the
Like-
graph?
One. Like there's no graph.
What is the independent? I don't have a graph, but it's, oh no.
Oh, what happened? It didn't transfer over good.
I have to check it again and see if I can bring the graphs in. The graphs are not there. Okay, let's go to 37. If behaviors being studies have social relevance and significance to the individual involved, it is part of
Applied.
behavior analysis.
Applied.
ABA.
Yeah, applied.
Graph there. B.
Definitely.
Okay, let's see, 37. B, yep. 38, you work on improving the fine motor skill of an individual with autism. Your work is
Applied.
that's not a correlation. Statistical.
I would say.
Right, because it would be socially significant.
Apply.
Yeah.
Fine motor. So applied, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the 38. Yep, applied.
You skipped one, I think.
Huh?
You skipped one?
139.
Work on shaping social behavior is of a rat is
Shaping
what's the show? What I
is
think it's
It's
applied.
experimental.
Is what?
Experimental.
Okay. 39. Yep. Experimental. I was gonna say applied. I would have missed it. Yep. If you believe certain environmental variable affects a child's ability to remain on task, and you carefully alter condition to elucidate the effect you have attempted. Scientific manipulation.
Manipulation.
C, final answer. Any suggestion?
I'm thinking C, scientific manipulation.
Mhm.
40. Yep, C. 41. A colleague has an idea that either access to Game Boy and escape from demand might improve a behavior. You take baseline and continue to measure the target response while manipulating access for one day and then escape the next day, changing between the two interventions. For 10 days you are conducting alternating.
Yeah, alternating treatment design.
Treatment design.
You're switching between the two interventions.
Yeah, alternative. Let's say 41. B. All right. Well, it's 7.
We're good at this.
Huh?
We're getting good at this.
It's about 200 and something questions. So
It's already 7. You guys want to keep going?
I have to go, but Eric, where did you get these questions?
I got them from the the ABA. What's that link on the
Oh,
ABA? Right?
The Facebook group? The ABA
Yeah,
study
it's
group?
part of Celia's mock exams or something like that.
Oh, okay, okay. And is it titled?
Yeah, it says 250 questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's look
Yeah,
at
go on to, yeah, that
Like the
ABA study
files
group under
tab?
their files, and there's a lot of mock questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen this one before, but this one's good. It's actually like
Yeah.
picking me up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna end it and then I'll post it and then we'll meet on
if we can meet on Friday if you're not going to be.
Yeah.
if you guys want, we can still try to meet on Friday and then maybe I'll just
Yeah, Friday works.
okay. That sounds good.
At the same time at 6 Central?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Finally
Thank you
found
so
somebody in
much,
Central Time.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.